that we can share with our other friends who were not able to make it today. Very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy. I'm part of Agile Mauritius, and today I'm super excited to have you for our already sixth meetup event. And on behalf of all my friends from Agile Mauritius, I wish you a warm welcome. So today I will co-facilitate this session with Danusha, who will introduce our speaker shortly. But before we proceed, let me give you some quick guidelines about our session. So please ensure that your speakers are, your speakers are on mute while our facilitator is talking. And also we will have a 10 minutes Q&A after the session so that you can have the opportunity to ask questions. And if you do have questions, but it's always good to put them in the chat, and then we'll go through the different questions. So please note that this session is recorded, and then we will share the recording on YouTube and on LinkedIn later on. So if you have any question with regards to Zoom, also maybe your different settings are not working, your mic, etc., please do not hesitate to raise your hand, and then we'll see how we can work on that. But without further ado, I will now hand over to Danusha, so then she can introduce our speaker of the day.
Thank you, Jeremy. So I'm Danusha, a member of Agile Mauritius, and thanks to you all for joining us. So as we've seen, so you're all around the world. So that's very nice for us to see that number of participation. And today we have Amir Peled, so who will host a practical and visual workshop. So like mentioned, so if you can join via your laptop, so we will collaborate throughout the session. So the workshop is on Antidotes to Team Toxins. And just, so today is our last event for 2021. So we'll resume next year. So a bit about today's talk. So if you've been having experience where we had unskillful communication during challenging times, so this workshop is for you. So Amir will show us the 4 team toxins. Will you understand, and we'll also have a practice at it. So a bit about Amir. So I reached out to Amir when we started Agile Mauritius. So he said to come back and because he was available. So he knew about Mauritius. So Amir, I hope you're okay. I shared. So you visited us in 2007. So very good to know about that. And you still remember Mauritius. So Amir is a first Scrum Alliance certified team coach in Eastern Europe. And he's a volunteer on the European Gathering team. So he was in the Global Scrum Gathering Vienna 2019, and he will also be in Lisbon in 2022. So he's also a CTC team member and mentor in Women in Agile. And he's also the founder of the first Scrum Alliance in Romania, Agile Coaching and Beyond. So Amir, he's enthusiastic, and he has over 10 years in Agile and more than 20 years in project management. And he has successfully helped organizations in their Agile journey to either adopt or improve their use of Scrum or other Agile frameworks. And companies that benefited from his coaching services were from various sizes, from startups to multinationals, with diverse backgrounds such as public transport, rail, IT, infrastructure, software development, banking, and telecommunications. So without further ado, I now hand over to Amir. Amir, over to you.
Thank you so much, Danusha and Jeremy. I'm so happy being here. On my first attempt to join you, I was notified. First of all, I felt really, really bad. And then I got the confirmation that I had COVID. Took me around 1 month to overcome it. I'm glad that I can be here today. Last night, I had a flight to Israel, and right now I'm in a quarantine. till I will get a confirmation that I don't have COVID. So you can see COVID all the time. And I relate that to what happens in teams, toxins. Sometimes it might feel like there's a pandemic and it will just go away. Whereas in other times, we really need to do something to address them. One thing to note is that team toxins exist in all teams. It is perfectly normal. And it's based on research. So it's not like Amir woke up this morning and all of a sudden he comes and says, there are team toxins. No, there's also plenty of science behind that. What are we going to do today? You're going to discover what the team toxins are, what specific characteristics do they have so that you can recognize them within your teams. I will also share with you some antidotes that you can use within your teams to address those toxins. And finally, you will get some homework, that is, you'll be given some challenges to implement those antidotes in your working environment. Let's get started. What I'm going to do next is to share with all of you a link to Mural. You can see it in Zoom's chat. And I will briefly share my screen so that you can see, in case that you don't have previous experience with Mural, how can you generate sticky notes? So what I'm going to do next is to share my screen. Can you please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, excellent. You can see on the left, on the top left-hand side, that there is an icon which is called text. So if you click on it and you click once again on a sticky note, you can write whatever you want. However, it might be a little bit too small, so you can zoom in using this pen. You can move around. You can also drag one of the corners to increase or to decrease the size. And you can see that above it, there is a cursor. So if you keep the cursor pressed, you can just move around sticky notes. Moving around sticky notes is going to be vital in this session because there are some sticky notes which I already generated for you, and you will need to move them according to some basic instructions that I will give you. What I'd like you to do next is in the area which is marked as section number 1. If you could please briefly generate a sticky note, write down your name on it, and you can also change the color to any color that you wish. So let's do that quickly so that each one of us will get a feel of how Mural works like. And I will stop sharing my screen so that I can see all of you. Okay, stop share. Okay, excellent. I can see some sticky notes. Thank you, Danusha. And more people join. Excellent. One thing that I'd like you to do, whenever there's a question, feel free to interrupt me and ask me your question. Okay, don't be shy. Just unmute yourself and talk to me. Let's talk to each other. Awesome. So let's get started. Basically, there are 4 toxic behaviors which were identified by Gottman. However, I'm not going to tell you which ones are these. What I'd like you to do instead is you'll be walking in 4 breakout rooms. And I would like you to generate on a sticky note a title for the poster that was assigned to you. On top of that, I would like you also to write down some characteristics from your point of view. So for instance, if there is a poster that you name it Joker, what specific behaviors does a Joker have in your opinion? Okay. Just bear with me for a few seconds. I'm going to generate the breakout rooms completely randomly. And I'm going to provide them names. No, I'm not going to provide them names. I'm going to mention top left, poster, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. And you'll be given 5 minutes for this exercise. Before we go, is there any question? Is there anything that I need to explain?
So Amir, you mean each one of us to choose a characteristic, right?
You will be assigned the poster. So for instance, you might join a breakout room, which is called top left. So the poster, which is at the top left in section number 2, will belong to your breakout room.
Okay, okay.
You need to give it a title. And then you need to also to write down on sticky notes what are specific behaviors which are related to the title chosen by you.
Good.
Okay. Does it help?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any further questions before we break out?
No.
Right. Let's give it a shot. 5 minutes, starting from now. Okay, please join the breakout rooms. Awesome. Let's start with the poster to the top left. What did you have in mind?
Team top left.
Yes, so we chose arrogant as the title, and the behaviors that we selected are around disrespect, undermining, bullying, aggressive attack, and domination.
Right. And what in the poster determined you to choose the title arrogant?
I think it's a word which is very linked to the picture and also to the different behaviors that we see in the sticky notes. I don't know if the others want to share also.
His body language, so we have that he is looking and putting his hand up, like pointing
Right.
finger. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's move on to the poster to the top right. I noticed that we have, and now we have also a title. Awesome. Can you please share with us what you have in mind? Blame game.
Anyone of you want to share? Shiman?
Okay. Yeah, actually, so the title is Blame Game because from the poster, actually, you have one person. It's a representative of one person holding the other from communicating, from sharing. So our different themes were disengagement, demeaning communication, undermining, and it's not my fault because like represented in the post, actually, there is no interest to communicate or to be engaged, and it's preventing the other from actually talking. If the others want to add, please feel free.
Right. So it's like, whose fault is it? I don't know. It's not my fault. Pass to the next person and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's what Shiman said as well. So disengagement, undermining, like the ways pushing someone else, like it's not my fault. No. That person is always knows it all.
Yeah, and maybe undervaluing also the opinion of the other.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's move on to the next poster. That is the one at the bottom left. What do we have there?
Right. So we ran out of time. So we only got as far as 4. But we felt it was joker or joking because he's pulling a funny face, like making fun of someone. So the words we pulled out were refusal to take responsibility, avoidance, because often people make a joke if they don't want to confront something. Maybe cutting others down if you're making a joke about someone or about something someone said. Undermining, again, if it's actually serious or means something to someone that you're now making fun of it, undermines sort of their feeling about it or what's happening. Yeah, and as I said, we ran out of time before we could pick number 5.
Yeah, 5 was really, really short indeed.
Yeah.
What other thoughts do you have regarding the joker or joking?
No, not just taking things seriously, though.
Yeah, everything is light. Everything is an opportunity to make fun of. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for that. Let's move on to the last but not least poster, bottom right.
Okay, I can start. Or Delphine, you want to?
No, you can go. I'll add it.
Okay. Okay. We, to be honest, we didn't have much time. We had several issues. So, we find that it was disrespectful, harsh startup. It's sort of maybe a it's not my fault type of posture with the hand in front. Well, the attitude is a bit like really not respectful and demeaning communication, doesn't want to have any communication. And the title, I just put it, so sorry, we didn't have time to discuss.
Nice.
Like, go away, don't talk to me.
Right. It's like, don't talk to me, talk to the hand.
Yeah, it's like a song.
Yeah. Rupa, did you want to say something?
No. Actually, I couldn't open that mural page itself. So.
But we explained to Rupa. So.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to normalize it, to say, hey, this is okay. This is something that exists in all teams to one extent or to the other. This is where I'm going to invite you back to section number 1. I will move away your names and I will reveal what is commonly known as the 4 toxins. So the top left posture is the one which is called blaming. You can see the finger pointing. And you can recognize it by having rather an aggressive attack. This is your fault. It has all to do about you. Usually it's about personality. It becomes quite personal. Yeah? It's also about, as you could tell here, harsh startup. It's not something that we ideally start with. Some people may interpret it as bullying because I'm the one to blame each time. It's my fault again and again and again and again. The person who gives you the blame is the one who usually dominates, and for that reason can be perceived as overly driving. When we move to the posture to its right, the one where Garfield puts his head on Odie, this is called stonewalling. This is where you try to belittle other people around you. And you can usually tell it by the level of disengagement of people around you. Once it occurs, people become passive because they don't want to go through stonewalling once again. Another thing which is quite common is that, okay, I'm not going to jump or cut corners. I will just, rather than following chain of command, this is where usually people cut corners, okay? Because they don't want the person who is superior in the hierarchy, for instance, to make them feel belittled. It usually leads to withdrawal, and it also leads to avoidance. I would rather try to avoid having those feelings rise up again. The poster to the bottom left is the one which is contempt. This is where it's all about having fun on the extent of the other person. Yeah? So you could tell, for example, that someone starts talking and then another person talks over. It is also shown by telling some gossip, which is usually hostile in the sense of, hey, did you hear that that person did this, 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 and that? It can also be shown up as undermining person's effort. It's piece of cake, or it just attributed to people luck. This is where people also are disrespectful to each other. If you have a look at Garfield, it just shows his teeth in their fullest glory, right? So not necessarily showing here respect. And communication has a demeaning nature. Hence, it's quite toxic. The last posture that is to the bottom right is where people become quite defensive. And they also justify their defensiveness. They become victims, right? They really, really shut down. And when that happens, they also don't assume or take responsibility. They rather pass it forward. And usually not taking responsibility and victimization goes hand in hand in a package. Another thing that happens is that you try to avoid blaming. And this is where immediately you say, hey, it's not my fault. Talk to the hand. And when people really, really shut down, it's extremely hard to influence them in one way or another, because they create a shell around them. Is there any question regarding what I covered so far? Covered it really, really briefly regarding the 4 toxins which are common in any team. Okay, I said any team, and this is where I invite you to think about your team, either a current team or one from the past. And think about which toxin out of the 4 was the most present one in that team. And what I'd like you to do is to take the sticky note from the first exercise where you wrote down your name and move it to one of the posters, which is the most relevant to either your current team or one team from the past. Okay, and just put your name onto the poster. Okay, I can see some names. Excellent. Okay. And we have, just a second. Okay, it seems like most people are on the blaming side. I'm curious, what examples do you have from your working scenario where either a present team or a team from the past exhibited those toxins? Who would like to share?
I can start. We are often in a culture where of victimization. I mean, to be honest, things are changing, and I probably have the best team ever, but no, it's a joke. But we have bias. Yeah, there is often a thing about trying to justify things. I work in IT, and in the IT department, when there is a problem, the first thing is to try to demonstrate that this is another problem or whatever. And so, yeah, behaviors could be justifications.
Yeah, absolutely. Who else has an example? Okay. One of the things that I used to do in the past to handle with blaming is to take it all, meaning that I could hear down the hall down the hallway that people would say, "Okay, this, and that happened. Whose fault is it?" And I said, "This is my fault." Well, but you have nothing to do about this, and that. Most probably, you don't even know that this problem exists. No? Cool. I will also share with you shortly in what ways can you actually address blaming. Let's move on to another example, which is stonewalling. What examples do you have from real life here?
I can give another example of stonewalling. We call it, I don't know if some people speak French here, but we call it the plouf, which means sometimes you have responsibilities in between people, and you think I'm doing it, I think you're doing it, and it's sort of a thing like it's plouf in the middle, and people don't even take the responsibility for it, and nobody does.
Yeah, I can add a bit to it, disengagement. So again, like Alain is saying, so sometimes it happens, you think that person is doing it, but no one is taking accountability and they're just avoiding it.
Yeah. And this is where it's worth to dig a little bit deeper. What happens to people? What's the reason that it happens? And to pay attention, not to blame, right? Because we already know that if we blame people, they might also shut down. Awesome. Let's move on to contempt. What examples do we have from real life?
So I can just mention something. In one team that I had, there was one person who thought they knew everything about everything, and nobody could give them any advice or inputs. So there was this constant abrasion between all the team members. A lot of pointing fingers, a lot of disrespect, not willing to listen to what other people were saying. And well, if you don't do it my way, then we're not going to do it at all, kind of thing, which made it very, very difficult. The only way out of that was for the one person to actually leave the whole team, because it was creating too much animosity and very little work was getting done. You always felt like you weren't good enough, and no matter how hard you tried and whatever you put out there, it was never right or never the best work. So it became very messy after a while.
Right, right. It might be what is called the hypo syndrome. Hypo stands from highest paid person opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah. And yeah, it is a challenge. I recall other times where people make fun of meetings. So it can be, for instance, if I put it in a little bit in Scrum, I could talk to one of the team members and tell them, I noticed that you didn't make it to one of the events. What happened? And that team member said, what event was it? Well, it was a sprint retrospective. Obviously, I won't make it to the sprint retrospective because I don't care about it. So again, it's making fun of, yeah? And those people might bring some good mood, great laughter, yet there is also a risk because they bring also sarcasm with it. And sarcasm is toxic. Okay, now I don't tell you remove everything, just to have it under control, under the right measurement. Okay, you need to balance it. Other examples of contempt?
Just to add on, Amir, on the sarcasm. So normally these types of people, they have a lot of influence with their teammates. And it was very difficult sometimes to break this kind of sarcasm. And yeah, so maybe if anyone has an opinion on how to handle this kind of situation, can share.
Yeah, and we'll get there. We'll get there when we discuss the antidotes. So you'll also have some answers and also an exercise to try in your case.
All right,
okay?
Thanks.
Very welcome, very welcome. And the last one, which is defensiveness. What examples do you have from real life?
I can share on that one. Actually, like for example, we have kind of victimization where at one time I had a colleague where the person actually didn't want to be responsible or anything or take accountability for anything. So every time the person did something wrong, the person just say that actually I wasn't aware that we needed to do things like that. And it was like kind of eternal redoing, restating things and resetting all the different processes, because each time you point out something wrong, the person just say, oh, I was not aware actually. And making as if the person was the one actually to being the victim because the person didn't know anything. And it's like every day coming back to work and having to explain everything all over again.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Vicky. Absolutely. It reminds me of two examples which I have. When I used to work internally in an organization, then if agile coaches were asked, okay, why don't you make the impact that we all want? The answer was, because we are not external consultants. We work internally. And now that I work as consultant, I observe that many consultants say, well, of course I cannot change anything because I'm only a consultant. I don't work internally. So again, it shows how can we be defensive here. Yeah. All right, let's move on. I'm sure that you are quite curious about, okay, cool. So we mentioned the 4 toxins. We created awareness that they do exist. So the first thing that we need to do is actually to have a candid discussion about it with our team. Tell them what did they notice, when do they notice that we do such behaviors, and so on and so forth. So basically we create an awareness here. And then the next thing after we create an awareness is to make it normal. And to say, hey, this is something that happens to all teams, okay? To some extent or to the other, and then we shall address them. And what I'm going to do next is to share with you the team toxins in this format. So right now we are in column number 4. And you can see that there are 4 groups of team toxins, of team antidotes. And what I'd like you to do is to take or to move the antidotes that you think fit most for your poster. I will give you 5 minutes for this exercise. I'm going to recreate your breakout rooms. Is there anything which is unclear regarding what you need to do in the next 5 minutes? Okay, let's give it a go. I will open the rooms. First of all, I will pause the record.
We were just getting going, and then you came and dragged us out of our space.
Oh, sorry about that. Do you need some extra time?
No, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
We'll go with what we've got.
Okay. Welcome back. So what have we covered so far? We've covered the team toxins. We covered which one is more common in either your current team or past team. We also said that it's perfectly normal. One thing that I'm curious about is what is your default team toxin? And in order to do that, we are going to use Zoom chat, and we'll use it as follows. You will write into Zoom chat without pressing enter. You are going to type in what is your default or more common or most common, a team toxin. Okay, pick up one. I can tell you, for instance, that for me, the most usual one is blaming. I tend to blame people more often than I wish I had. Now I'm curious about you, so please write down into your Zoom chat which of the 4 team toxins is more common when we speak about you, not about other people. And you are going to press enter once you wrote it into Zoom chat in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and press enter. Woohoo, we have lots of new messages. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Now, antidotes. What are we going to do about it? And this question has already popped up. So I invited you to put the team toxins to those which you think that are the most relevant per each poster. You had some great discussions, and I'm curious to find out what did you discuss about? Let's start with the bottom right this time. Bottom right poster.
Bottom right, that's us, Delphine and Rafad. Who wants to start?
I can start with personal development, meaning that the person needs to cater more on his own personal development, how to address different topics and how to communicate.
I picked curiosity because I feel like it's important at some point to get curious and to understand what's happening, to open your mind. But to be honest, we also discussed about at least 2 or 3 antidotes that we didn't understand.
Well,
So
which ones are these?
there were the 2%
The coins.
What do you find? The coin and the 2% truth.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, would you like me to discuss them now, or shall we cover them all? Okay, let me address them then. The 2%, what does it mean? It means that we need to seek what is the 2% truth about the given situation. For example, I might say, I got really harsh performance appraisal, which has absolutely nothing to do with me. It doesn't represent me. And then one of the things that I can do about this is to think like this. If 2% of the performance appraisal was true, what is it like? What does it look like? So it really necessitates deep reflection, because usually we say, yeah, we don't accept that. Yeah? So we say, okay, let's be honest. Let's see if we can identify 2%. And then once we do so, great. What are we going to do with that information? What are we going to do differently? The other one, coin, it helps us to give feedback and receive feedback. So basically what we do, we put things into context. Then we mention all the things that we observe. And then we combine the two by mentioning what is the impact on me, on my feelings. And then finally, that we have all of these 3, okay, let's agree on next steps. What can we do differently from here? And it really helped in the sense that it is no longer a feedback about you as a person, it's about some behaviors that I observed, or it can be some things that I noticed, and then people don't tend to take it personally anymore. Okay, was that helpful? Yeah, okay, awesome. Thank you. Let's move on to the next poster, which is bottom left.
Rupa, would you like to go first?
You can, okay.
Okay, so, oh, go.
What we have chosen is personal development, and the coin one, context, observation, impact next.
And what led you to choose those two?
This joking part, sometimes it's not sometimes, a lot of times it's very irritating. So if you can just say it in a better way or not joke about it, so that is part of some personality development which is needed, was what I thought. Aya, could you take the coin one?
So I picked coin because sometimes people will joke about things as we said, avoidance, or so it helps them to, if you use coin, to say why it's not an appropriate reaction or response to whatever's happening. So that's why I thought coin could help with someone who was, I don't know what the official title was of the joker, but showing contempt, because it may not be intentional. So saying, well, when you behave in this way, this is how it impacts me or impacts someone else, and perhaps you could do it this way, kind of thing.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next poster. Let's go up and pick up the top left this time.
Yeah, so if I may go to the one that I put was about transparency. So by being transparent on, by having visibility and having transparency in our work. So I think that this decreases the opportunity for the blaming game. Yeah. And one of the things that should be done, according to me, should be to provide more visibility to everyone in the team. Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah,
thank you.
And for me, it was about practicing respectful communication, so that it can reduce the probability of having aggressive attacks or bullying or even domination. So maybe around more compassion, active listening can help to reduce those toxins happening.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think there was only the two of us in the group.
Let's hear from poster top right.
I can start. So I choose practice respectful communication. Again, so being mindful of how you speak and how you communicate will eliminate some of the traits like undermining or demeaning communications. It's very important to to empathize and to know how to speak respectfully. So that was one of it. And Shimon Wendy.
So I spoke about personal development. So you need to be self-aware of things when you're doing and saying things that are wrong. So it's about understanding before you open your mouth and say something that's actually wrong. So it's getting that self-awareness, which is part of personal development and growth. It takes quite a lot of getting used to or sort of maintaining it, especially when things get heated in a team situation. So stop before you say anything, and hopefully you can work your way through the minefield. Thanks.
Well, which is quite hard, right? Because conversation gets heated. You also feel the heat within yourself. And then what you actually need to do is calm down, step back, and discuss it a little bit later. Right. Thank you all for sharing your discussions. What I'm going to do is to reveal the antidotes to each of the team toxins. And what I'd like you to do is to generate a new sticky note with your name on it. And in section number 5, you will write down which of the team toxins are you going to work on within the next few weeks. So this is your opportunity for growth. I ask you, which team toxins do you bring to the team? And now that you know the antidotes, pick up one that you will focus on in the next weeks so that you will improve and help the team.
Could you explain what hard and soft startup are?
Explain what is hard soft
startup and soft startup, yeah. Not heard that phrase before.
Yeah. So it can be seen in the context of having a heated discussion. So rather to lay back and have a same level discussion, or to have a hard one which is really, really heated and might lead to finger pointing to blame. So this is the difference between hard and soft one. It's okay because you,
Yeah, I don't think I quite get it. I don't know if you have an example, perhaps.
Yeah. So an example can be that we are both laid back, as we discussed right now, and we might bring a specific example which we found irritating in our relationship. And this is rather soft. We discuss about it, it's perfectly fine, and so on and so forth. A hard one might be where I actually start and tell you, hey, you did to me this, this, and that sucks because of the, you know, so it's really, really.
Okay, so you just dive straight into the attack mode versus setting the scene and sharing information. Exactly. Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, many people would like to speak up, acknowledging that we are all part of a system. Several more personal development. We have transparency and we have curiosity. All right. To tie it up, what we've done so far. So we discussed about the team toxins. We said that it's perfectly normal. We shared some example, your real life example of teams which had a default mode. Then you picked up your own default mode and chose which area can you develop from the antidotes. In the context of teams, you can have a similar discussion as we did right now. And you can bring a conflict protocol. That is, what are we going to do when things will get messy? What are we going to do when one of the team members will start blaming or will be more contempt and so on and so forth? And then you can have a specific agreement regarding how are we going to look like when we are going to have conflicts. I truly believe that this is one of the most effective tools, if you'd like to call it a tool, that can help teams to become more high performance ones. How can it look like in reality? I'm going to unlock section number 6. You can see some of the questions that you can put, or you can put your own. I like to do it as part of a workshop, similar to what we've done so far, and on top of that, to generate at the end a conflict protocol. All right. What questions do you have?
Yeah, I was just saying the example that you showed. So we do a similar, we call it social contract. We have a list of questions. What are the values you like when you disagree? What are the, how would you respect each other? Things like that. So it's a bit similar.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I noticed that sometimes we omit is regarding naming conflict a conflict. At least in some cultures, when you hear about conflict, you say, we never have conflicts, which is false assertion. We do have conflicts. The question is, how do we move from destructive conflicts to ones which are healthy? And this is where we should focus on. Speaking about cultures, you could all relate to the team toxins, because no matter which culture do we come from, they are present. And this is the beauty of it. Just put conflict on the table. Conflict is something which makes us stronger as a team. And then what are we going to do together as a team, as one cohesive unit, when things will not get as anticipated? Okay. What other questions do you have?
Any question, comments from anyone?
Absolutely.
So I have a question. Basically, if you realize that there is a task given to somebody, and every time the deadline goes on extending, and the reasons that the person is giving is not relevant, like there may be problems, but is like always the person is saying things at the last moment. Okay, but yesterday it was like this, so this did not take place. Or so the reason, there are n number of reasons, but the task keeps getting delayed. So I've tried being sarcastic. I've tried being nice. I've tried being really mean, but nothing works. So
yeah, one of the things that could work here. One of the things that could work here is to be playful around it. For instance, you can try to show the 4 quadrants and ask that person, where does he see where do they see themselves in those quadrants. You can also share where did you observe that that person exhibited behaviors are. Another thing that you can consider is also the 2%. What is the 2% truth in what that person said? So those are 2 of the possibilities that you can try with. Another thing is to discuss with other colleagues and bring it together. Try to use coin. Try to put it into context. Then what you observed. What is the impact on you? What is the impact on the team? And then agree together on next steps. Don't make it personal about that person. If you say to that person, you are a mean person, you never do this, this, and that, you lie all the time, you tell us that you will deliver by, but instead we already know that you are going to do this, this, and that. This is an example of a destructive conflict.
Okay.
Okay. And feel free to approach me on LinkedIn and tell me how does it go for you, Rupa.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And of course, that's applicable to all of you. Feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Amir.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Before you go, I need a quick feedback. You can see on the right side of the screen of Mural that there is a feedback door. Please generate a sticky note and write a reason. Why did you put that sticky note either on 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? That is, how was the session for you? Okay. And I'm going to pass the virtual ball to you back, Danusha and Jeremy.
Thank you, Amir. So it was very nice of you. So for me personally, I enjoyed this workshop. So it was very interactive, and I hope you all enjoyed. So is there a last round of questions for Amir before we end the session today? No. So over to you, Jeremy, with some news on Agile Mauritius.
Yeah, thank you, Amir, once again for this very nice session, and thank you, Danusha, and thank you to all the audience. So without you, we wouldn't be able to enjoy this session together. In terms of Agile Mauritius, so it was our last meetup for the year, but we already have a very cool lineup of speakers ready for next year. So please do follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Meetup. We also have our own website, Agile Mauritius. So connect with us, and also if you want to, you can maybe drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat, and then you can just connect with each other if you're comfortable too. So yeah, on this note, really happy to have interacted with you all this evening. Again, a big thank you to Amir for dedicating his time to share with us around toxins and antidotes today. And looking forward to see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
thanks. Bye.
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 Bye bye.